Shortly after graduating from college, when I was only 25 years old, I decided to tie the knot. Life brought me face to face with the girl who stole my heart in the 5th year. The fact that she was 8 years older and the fact that she had a 10-year-old son didn't bother me at all. After all, love doesn't obey the rules. We met, moved in together a few months later, and exchanged vows less than a year after. 9 months after that, our baby boy was born. Shortly before this joyful event, we moved into a new apartment, which I bought before the wedding. The first 5 years of marriage went smoothly with almost no failures. Our income grew steadily, and we even bought ourselves a nice car. My wife and children went to good resorts every year, and I focused on providing for them. She ran the household and put her soul into the upbringing of our children. But eventually, when her maternity leave ended, she declared her desire to return to work. At first, she returned to her former position as an accountant, but soon life brought us an unexpected surprise. She was offered a job at the same company where I worked as a sales manager. Despite the fact that we worked on different floors, I was on the 5th and she was on the 1st, she got a job as a junior manager. She soon rose through the ranks and was promoted to head of her department in just 6 months. For a while, everything seemed picture perfect. My wife's new role came with a young, vibrant team of 22 to 25-year-olds, and they all seemed to click effortlessly. They celebrated work events, birthdays, and holidays as a group. But not long after, subtle cracks began to form. In the evenings, I noticed her spending a lot of time messaging an old acquaintance on Facebook. At first, I shrugged it off, convincing myself it was nothing. Still, it left a nagging discomfort I couldn't shake, even though I trusted her wholeheartedly. Before long, these undercurrents of unease began spilling into our personal lives, specifically our intimacy. My wife often found reasons to avoid closeness, citing everything from headaches to stomach issues to the oddest excuses, like a stubbed pinky toe. It was always something. As the distance between us grew, we started arguing more often, and most evenings ended with us doing our own thing, worlds apart. To be fair, I wasn't blameless. Over the years, I'd let myself go, gaining weight, losing the spark I once had as a partner and father. I wasn't the person she fell for, and I knew it. This uneasy pattern of fights, indifference, and disconnection dragged on for about a year until inevitably, everything fell apart. Looking back now, the warning signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. One day, nearly all of my wife's colleagues handed in their resignations and jumped ship to a rival company. A few weeks after this mass exodus, she started voicing her frustration with her job, calling the CEO a dictator and lamenting how fed up she was with the toxic work environment. Naturally, I supported her decision to quit. After a bit of back and forth, she drafted her resignation letter and wrapped up her final 2 weeks at the company. Her decision didn't come without conflict, though. She clashed with the CEO, who wasn't thrilled about her departure. I even tried to convince her to stay, hoping to avoid unnecessary drama, but she stood firm. Ultimately, I caved under the mounting stress and decided to quit as well, thinking we'd face this chapter together. But here's the kicker: I was the only one who truly left. Not long after I'd stepped away, my wife managed to land a position back at the very company she previously left. Meanwhile, I was scrambling to find work. It took me about 2 weeks to secure a job, though in an entirely different industry, the fitness sector. Once the dust settled, I made up my mind to overhaul my life inside and out. I embraced a strict diet, shedding 10 pounds in just 2.5 months, and threw myself wholeheartedly into my new role. What I didn't realize, however, was that while I was preoccupied with my transformation and new routine, I was missing things happening right under my nose. I trusted my wife implicitly, so I didn't think much of it when she began going for frequent evening walks and weekend outings. Sometimes she'd take our child along. Other times she went alone. She also spent an increasing amount of time glued to her phone, messaging, supposedly, her new coworkers on Facebook. She even splurged on a new phone, which she kept glued to her side, never leaving it out of reach. Then came the Wednesday night that changed everything. My wife suddenly announced she had to attend a mandatory event at work. I stayed home with the kids, but after about 40 minutes, something prompted me to call her. To my surprise, the call connected, but I quickly realized her phone was still in the car, and she had no idea I was listening. For about 20 minutes, I overheard her in what was unmistakably an intimate conversation with another man. Although I couldn't catch every word, the tone was enough to gut me. When she realized her phone was on and I could hear her, she abruptly hung up and powered it down. She came home 2 hours later, and before I could even process what had just happened, she admitted to the affair without hesitation. She told me she didn't want to be with me anymore and was leaving. When I pressed her about the other man, she spun a story about him being a 32-year-old single guy she met recently and briefly dated. It was all so sudden, so surreal, and the details felt contrived. But in that moment, the life we had built together crumbled before my eyes. What about me? I saw myself as a proud, majestic deer standing tall with elegant antlers that once symbolized strength and dignity. Yet beneath this facade, I was wounded, betrayed, and struggling to navigate the storm that had taken over my life. Despite the pain, I chose to forgive her. We had a son after all, a 5-year-old boy with his whole life ahead of him. How could I let him grow up without his father? These thoughts consumed me, kept me awake at night, and pushed me to consider reconciliation no matter how broken I felt. In a final effort to salvage what remained of our family, I gave her an ultimatum: 2 weeks to decide. She had to sever ties with her lover and commit herself to rebuilding our life together, or she could walk away for good. Those 2 weeks felt like an eternity, a slow drip of agony I couldn't fully describe. Meanwhile, she carried on with her daily routine as if nothing had changed, working during the day, taking our child to the park in the evenings. It was maddening, and yet I held on to the hope that we could piece things back together. When the 2 weeks were up, she told me she wanted to keep our family intact. Relief flooded over me, though it came with a sense of cautious optimism. Then she made a peculiar request. She wanted to spend one last day at the lake with her old work friends. She framed it as a chance to relax and take the kids along, emphasizing that she wanted to come back fully committed to our reconciliation. Foolishly, like the trusting deer I had become, I agreed. That Saturday morning they left early. But as the hours passed, a nagging feeling gnawed at me, an instinct I couldn't ignore. My gut told me something was off, and when I noticed a bag she'd left behind, I couldn't resist the urge to look through it. And there it was, cold, undeniable evidence in the form of a flash drive. I plugged it in and my world came crashing down. Photo after photo revealed the truth of her betrayal. She hadn't just cheated, she'd fled it. The images showed her with a 22-year-old, a boy just 6 years older than her own son. Worse yet, he had been her subordinate at our old workplace, the very job where I thought we had shared a bond. The humiliation didn't stop there. Her colleagues had been in on it the whole time. They had witnessed their relationship, supported it, even spent time with them as if it were perfectly normal. And right at that moment, as I sat staring at the evidence, she was at the lake with him and our children, laughing, playing, pretending they were a family. The realization hit me like a hunter's arrow. I was no more than a bystander in her life, a placeholder for something she no longer cared for. My role as a husband, a partner, a man, it all felt insignificant. I had been blind, willingly ignoring the signs, holding on to a fantasy that no longer existed. My trust, my dignity, my hope, it had all been for nothing. When she came home the following evening, her carefree demeanor shattered the moment she saw her belongings packed and waiting in the hallway. I didn't need to say much. The evidence had spoken for itself. Our marriage was over. She had made her choices, and I could no longer allow myself to be the deer caught in headlights, frozen and powerless. It was time to let go, to reclaim whatever was left of my pride, and begin anew.